His topic tonight is, does what's on your fork determine your future? And now let's welcome Jyoti Chawla. Go ahead, Jyoti.
Thank you so much, Mark, and thank you everybody for joining in. Namaste. I'm really glad that you guys are spending your evening with me. And I also want to thank the First Coast Free Thought Society. And I love their motto, which says, to question is the answer. Let's ask a few questions. Are animals sentient beings? What is the impact of eating animal health, our climate, our social justice? And why and how should I change my behavior? What can I eat? Where would I get my protein for my big guns? Animal sentience refers to the ability of animals to feel and experience emotions such as joy, pleasure, pain, fear. How many of you have a dog or a cat or a horse? Let me see your hands. All right. Do they show emotions such as joy, pleasure, pain, fear? Yes. In a similar ways, chickens, cows, pigs, lambs show emotions such as pain, fear, and they want to be loved. Which implies that all of these animals are sentient beings like us. They want to be loved and for the most part left alone, and definitely not be pained or tortured or used for our purpose. Pigs are as loving and sensitive like dogs. In fact, pigs are cleaner than dogs because they don't have any sweat glands. Pigs dream, recognize their names, and are gregarious and affectionate beings. Pigs like to have their belly rubbed like you and I and a dog. Pigs are curious and insightful. And pigs, mom pigs, which are called sows, like to nurse their kids and teach their kids like my mom did for me. Similarly, chickens are similar to cats. Chickens can recognize name. They're very inquisitive. They want to be petted, and they are very personable. Chickens are problem solvers. They can find food, and they have close family ties. And mother hen bonds with their chicks and nurses them and teaches them how to find food, just like my mom did for me. Jeremy Bentham, an English philosopher, said, the question is not, can they reason, nor can they talk, but can they suffer? And as you can see, animals in captivity suffer. They want stimulation, they want to roam around and not be in the cage. Animals fear and suffer pain just like us. Here is a great video from Israel. Let's watch it.
יפה, מאמי. בול עוגת התפוחים שלי.
מי יצא? מחלקת בית. מצאתי. בשר טלה?
מאמי, אני רוצה טרי. וואי, טרי פה.
כן, זה נראה לי טוב. חבר, יש לך בשר טלה טרי?
אבל שיהיה טרי.
טלה, טרי! טרי בדרך.
יואו, נהייתי רעבה.
טרי! מה זה? טרי? לחלק או לארוז?
אתם לא באמת מופתעים. למעלה ממיליון ישראלים עשו את החיבור והפסיקו לאכול בעלי חיים. לכל המידע על איך להתחיל, חפשו בגוגל, עושים את החיבור.
So as you can see, the husband and wife were able to make a connection that the fresh meat which they were seeking for came from a sentient being, came from a lamb which looked like their baby. And as soon as the mom held the baby, she had the affection of like she was holding her own child. So animals are sentient beings. If you think that dogs in cages or eating dogs is wrong, then so is eating pigs or eating cats or eating cows. Cows are kept in gestation crates, meaning they cannot move around or nurse their babies. It is because it is convenient for the animal farmers to handle them, but it is extremely cruel for the animal to be in a cage, or for a sentient being to not be able to nurse or pet their own babies. And similarly, chickens are cramped in cages where they cannot even spread their wings or do dust bathe themselves, enjoy stimulation. And when, just like us, when we are stressed, we get sick. Animals, when they're stressed, get sick and they shed a lot more virus. And we're going to talk about viruses. But animals are fed antibiotics to keep healthy, and 80% of all of our antibiotics goes to livestock. We're going to touch base more. Growing up in India, I was addicted to dairy. Indians literally bathe in dairy. And my chore in the morning was to go fetch dairy in the morning. And until recently, approximately 10 years back, I made the connection that dairy is built on female exploitation and infanticide. Cows are artificially inseminated or forcefully inseminated, and they have a baby and they produce the baby just like my mom produced milk when I was born. And after 4 pregnancies, the cow is tired, cannot hold any more babies, so the cow goes to the slaughterhouse. And India, which worships cows or calls them Gau Mata or cow mom, is the world's largest exporter of beef and leather because of the dairy industry. And we will touch base on the alternatives for milk, and I personally like oat milk and rice milk. And as soon as I learned that basmati rice in a blender can make milk, I was off dairy. And my skin cleared up and my acne disappeared and my asthma dramatically improved also. These days, animals are genetically bred and pumped not only antibiotics, but hormones. In fact, the chickens grow so huge that they cannot support their weight on their own legs. And they suffer massive problems and massive pain because of being so pumped up with hormones and genetically bred. Alice Walker mentioned that the animals of the world exist for their own reasons. They were not made for humans any more than Black people were made for white or women created for men, which implies that animals are sentient beings. They are not our food, they are not our clothing, and they are not for our entertainment. In spite of their sentience, we slaughter 10 billion with a capital B just in US, and over 7 times, 70 billion animals during the world. Comes down to around 2,000 animals per second in US, and over 14,000 animals across the world every second. And this is just land animals. We, from the oceans, we harvest 140 million tons of fish, and aquaculture, which is also pumped with antibiotics and hormones, we get 60 million tons. In fact, the fishing is so horrendous. We have trawlers and we have dead zones, several dead zones of the size of Texas in our oceans these days. And antibiotics and growth hormones are fed because, as we mentioned, that the animals, when they're in close proximity, get stressed out and they're shedding more viruses. And we're going to revisit the problem of antibiotics resistance in a short while. Dominion is a great documentary by Joaquin Phoenix, the guy who is in Joker. And this is a free documentary online if you go to watchdominion.com or dominionmovement.com. And you can watch this documentary online to educate yourself on our food production, because we're all connected. We are in a pandemic, as we can see that we are not meeting in person, but we are meeting over the Zoom. And COVID is a zoonotic disease. And we just passed 200,000 deaths from COVID, and may they rest in peace. But you can see that the heart disease up to date has killed over 3 times that many people just in 2020 alone. In fact, heart disease is the biggest killer we have over 2,000 people die every day from heart disease. Obesity, cancer is also on the rise. Oceans are having dead zone. In fact, by the year 2050, there is going to be more plastic in the ocean than we would have fish. The 80% of all of our antibiotics goes to our livestock, and it is causing antibiotic resistance, or MRSA, and antibiotic resistance is going to be another huge problem which we will be facing. And the mortality of people from COVID, most of the people dying from COVID have an underlying heart disease or obesity, which also can be ameliorated by following a plant-based lifestyle.
Rest of this is yours.
Okay, we're talking about these diseases, and we need to ask ourselves a question: either are they man-made or are they natural? We know that COVID-19 right now came from live animal market, but if we examine the CDC reports, you would see that G4EA-H1N1 is a swine flu virus, is another pandemic brewing in our slaughterhouses. So is H7N9 and H5N1 with a bird flu. We are seeing wildfires because of climate change in California and Portland, and the fire season is just about starting. But at the same time, because of climate change, we're having droughts and hurricanes. And hurricanes are so many that we have run out of names. We have now on alpha and beta, the Greek letters, the Greek alphabet we are using to name the hurricanes. And the Earth's temperature is rising. The COVID hotspots is also in animal slaughterhouses. So we need to examine our current situation, take an inventory as to what is our relationship with our animals and our nature. We are all waiting for a vaccine, and pharmacy is producing a lot of medications for lowering down your cholesterol or addressing obesity and cancer. But in all of these situations, we need to look at the root cause. Like in this cartoon, these workers are fervently trying to mop up the floor. But if they thought about turning off the faucet? And becoming a vegan or going plant-based is turning off the faucet for a lot of these problems. It's addressing the root cause. COVID-19 came from live animal market. Similarly, swine flu came from pigs, bird flu from chicken, and MERS, which is the Middle Eastern Respiratory Syndrome, came from eating camels in the Middle East. Mad cow disease from cows, and SARS from bats and civet cats. HIV, which is called simian immunodeficiency virus in monkeys, came from eating wild bushmeat. So you can see there are so many diseases which came either from wildlife or livestock.
But somehow the sound isn't coming through the TV. It's only on the computer, and it's can't hear it. Jyoti Chawla.
Hello? Okay. So the World Health Organization has put meat in the same category as cigarettes, and it's because of the inflammatory effect of it. And this is the cartoon from Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine. And if you go to pcrm.org, they will have a bunch of studies which are published in multiple medical journals delineating the impact of eating animal-based diet and inflammation, heart disease, diabetes, cancer, the cholesterol in the animal products, of course, the antibiotics and hormones, the casein in the dairy, and saturated fat. These are the two studies done, Adventist Health Study and the Epic Oxford Study. And if you look at the risk for vegans as opposed to meat eaters and lacto-vegetarians, you can see that the vegans have a much lower disease risk for heart disease, diabetes, kidney disease, and diverticular disease, and even cancer. The reason is because whole food plant-based diet is anti-inflammatory. You need liver to make cholesterol. Plants have no liver, so there is zero cholesterol. Our liver makes cholesterol, which our body needs at night. And plants have micronutrients, macronutrients, which we are going to talk about it. Dairy has the same problems. Dairy increases your risk for having a hip fracture or osteoporosis and dramatically increases your mortality risk. And the problem is because dairy has casein, saturated fat, and hormones which are deleterious to our body. Dairy is essentially hormones which the mom can pass to her baby calf so that the calf can multiply like 8 or 9 times bigger than when the baby is born. And this study was published in British Medical Journal. Let's talk about the environmental impact of our animal-based lifestyle. Animal farming or animal slaughter creates more greenhouse gases than all modes of transportation combined, be it road, rail, air, or marine. Just by going plant-based, you can reduce your carbon footprint by 50%. Just imagine, by eating broccoli instead of beef, you can cut down your carbon footprint by 50%. Of course, there is over 80,000 fruits, vegetables like broccoli, which we are going to talk more. Livestock also releases nitrous oxide. Nitrous oxide is 300 times more deadly or more destructive than carbon dioxide. And livestock is responsible for more than half of its emission. Water is essential for life. Do you know that one hamburger costs 600 gallons of water? It's because the plants need water, the cow needs water, and the process of animal slaughter is very water intensive, and it creates a lot of waste. So one hamburger is equivalent to showering for 2 months continuously. The meat and dairy industry use over a third of Earth's fresh water. In fact, the animal agriculture uses 11 times more water than a typical household in US. The one cow produces 200 times more waste than a typical human being. And all of these waste is stored in a cesspool and in lagoons. And if there is a hurricane, these lagoons get spilled over into our farm produce, causing more diseases. And also the community living nearby is also impacted. Every minute in US, 7 million pounds of excrement are produced by animals. That's a lot of blank, 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 blank. Let's talk about the slaughterhouse workers, which are now become essential workers because the president has declared the Defense Production Act. Now, is meat really essential? Most of the people who work in these slaughterhouses are either Black, Indigenous, people of color, or immigrants or poor people. These slaughterhouses become COVID havens. Over 500 meat plants have become COVID havens. Over 42,000 people have been diagnosed with COVID-related disease, and over 200 people have died. And this data is as of last week. So these numbers must have increased this week. And this has been reported by the Food and Environment Reporting Network. You can see these workers are crammed together, and just the process of having with this sharp object exposes them for repeated injury, limb injury, and also from PTSD from the nature of the work which is being done. We need to think as to, do our food choices validate or cause these workers to be exposed to all this hazard? Over 1 billion people go to bed hungry every night. Now, reason why is because the wheat, corn, the grains, and soy, which is fed to this livestock to be able to make meat, can easily be eaten by the hungry people. The meat efficiency is 16%. What does it mean? It means that 100 units of food, the grain food, only produces 16 units of meat food. The why? Because the middleman or middle person, the cow or the chicken, uses up a lot of energy to produce that meat in the end. So it is highly inefficient to be on a meat-based diet than on a plant-based diet. The wheat, corn, and soy produced in the world can easily resolve world hunger problem. I love the quote from Philip Woolen, who is from the past president of the World Bank, who mentions that veganism is the Swiss Army knife of the future. One instrument solves our ethical, economic, environmental, water, and health problems, and ends animal cruelty for. And we need to examine, we're all looking for tools and for our various crises we are facing, COVID, climate change, diseases. And veganism is one solution, which is easily available and which you can choose at your next meal. Hippocrates, the founder of modern medicine, said, "Let food be thy medicine and medicine be thy food." And there is over 80,000 distinct fruits, vegetables, nuts, grains, seeds, mushrooms. So we should eat the rainbow, feel the rainbow, and be the rainbow. Whole food plant-based is best for healthy living. As you can see, there's various categories of legumes, bulbs, flowers, fruits, stems, leaves, roots, whole grain, mushroom, nuts. For anybody who is telling that vegans only eat grass are lying from their teeth. Whole food plant-based have fiber. There is no fiber found in animal-based food. Fiber brings out the best in you, they detoxify you, and is essential for our gut bacteria. Remember, people said, "Oh, I have a gut feeling." It's not your gut feeling, it's the bacteria in your gut which is feeling good. Here are the multiple protein sources to build those big guns. You have several categories of vegetables, beans, and seeds to choose from. If you are craving for meat, we have plant-based answers for you. Beans and lentils, tofu, soy to the world, portobello mushrooms, seitan, and meal replacements. And we're going to talk about the various meal replacements. If you are cooking with eggs, you can substitute with applesauce, aquafaba, which is the leftover from chickpeas water, chia seeds, flax seeds. We have several different kinds of plant-based milks, cashew cheese, carrot cheese. My favorite is cashew cheese from Kite Hill, and also Wildlife is a good source. When I'm craving for meat, I would have plant-based meat analogs, which we're going to talk about them, or mushrooms, and jackfruit has the same texture. Now, honey is the savings for the bees, and bees population are being decimated also. So instead of stealing honey, their savings account from the bees, we can use agave nectar or maple syrup. And instead of using butter, Earth Balance has good plant-based butter, and coconut oil or vegetable oil can be substituted. If you go full vegan, you need to watch out for your vitamin D, because vitamin D comes from sunlight. And since animals are out in the sun most of their lives, they make vitamin D. We make vitamin D from the melanin in our skin. And you can get vitamin D from either mushrooms or sunshine, or from supplements or tofu or vitamin D fortified foods. Sorry about this busy slide, but B12 is an important topic. B12 comes from bacteria, and we can get B12 from either fortified foods or nutritional yeast. I love nutritional yeast. It has a very cheesy flavor. And also you can get it from fermented food like sauerkraut, kombucha, or you can just get a supplement. I know a lot of people say, "Oh, Miley Cyrus is no longer vegan." Well, Miley Cyrus needs to learn that fish get their omega-3 from algae, from plants. You can get your omega-3s from chia seeds, flax seeds, hemp seeds, walnuts, and greens, and also from algae. The plate can be summarized in having categories: fruits, grains, nuts, legumes, vegetables, and also just make sure you're getting your daily source of vitamin B12 and D and iodine. Food, the vegan food plate, it's by the author Brenda, and I will have her book reference in a later slide. It's a simple food plate where you're eating the rainbow, you're feeling the rainbow, you're being the rainbow. These are multiple sources of plant-based milk. My favorite is rice milk, pea milk, coconut milk, and multiple vegan or plant-based yogurts. There, the burger industry has exploded. Beyond Burger, Gardein, Impossible Burger have several different options. If you're craving for meat, you use these in mind that they are processed, and you consume them for transitioning into a plant-based lifestyle. Whole food plant-based is the best for health. But if you are craving for once in a while to try a burger, try these plant-based burgers. This slide is from Forks Over Knives, which is a really great documentary. So again, which emphasizes that whole food plant-based is the best. The more you're going to process it, the more you're going to refine a product to make it taste either like meat or taste, taste better, the more it's going to lose nutrition. So mantra to think when you are doing food shopping is choose color and whole food plant-based. Several vegan apps are easily available for your phone. Michael Greger's A Daily Dozen. I will have his website in a short while. Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine has a 21-day vegan kickstart. Forks Over Knives. The Forks Over Knives app is a paid app, but if you go to their website, forksoverknives.com, they all the information is free, their recipes. The Happy Cow is a great website, and also Food Monster. PCRM.org, Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine, is doing this weekly class. It is actually every Tuesday. I think it is at 4 p.m. If you go to PCRM.org, they are doing an 8-week free class on fighting COVID with food. And they also have immense amount of information on their website, PCRM.org. I highly recommend it. Dr. Michael Greger, who has written a great book, How Not to Die. It's not a fiction book. It's How Not to Die from 15 Common Diseases. How Not to Diet, How Not to Die cookbook. And I love this book, How to Survive a Pandemic, where he talks about the confinement of animals and how they're shedding and concentrating the viruses. Dr. Neil Bernard from PCRM has written Reversing Diabetes. And also the food plate was from Brenda Davis and Vincenzo Molina's book on becoming vegan. Dr. Greger recommends Daily Dozen. It's how to add fruits, vegetables, nuts, grains, seeds, mushroom, and exercise in your lifestyle. It's nutritionfacts.org is a great website. I almost visit this website daily for my reference. And Dr. Greger promotes this in memory of his grandma, like I promote healthy plant-based eating in memory of my mom. Nutritionfacts.org, you can search for thousands of videos which are available for free in multiple languages to educate on finding the root cause of your diseases and how to let food be your medicine and medicine be your food. Dr. Riz is another great resource on preventing cardiovascular disease. I attended a seminar by Climate Healers Group. They are doing this daily series for next couple of weeks, a free series online by Climate Healers, and they're inviting a lot of physicians and on their website to learn about nutrition, to learn how we are all connected. And I learned by this talk by Dr. Tushar Mehta, The Fundamentals of Plant-Based Diet. And if you Google Tushar Mehta, vegan red apple, his awesome, I think his TED talk is available online for free. And I will have all these resources if you just email me, and I will show you my email address, and I'll be happy to share my slides and resources with you. When Santo Molina had a great book, I think she contributed to that vegan plate. Eating a healthy plant-based diet is another great resource. So let's talk about movies. Cowspiracy is my favorite documentary. It's very moving documentary, and it's available on Netflix. And if you go to their website, cowspiracy.com/facts, you would have over 300 resources free. Forks Over Knives has great recipes on their website. Their documentary is also amazing, based upon research called the China Study. What the Health, not the other word, but What the Health also has great resources on their website. Their membership is paid, but the resources are all free on their website. Game Changers is how athletes are gaining the advantage, bulking up on plant-based meat. Vegucated, Food Inc., Live and Let Live, and Eating You Alive are also great documentaries. And if you want to do Netflix and chill, let's go to Veg Movies and Chill. And there is a lot of documentaries available over there for free on their website, vegmovies.com. One Green Planet has amazing recipes on their website, and it's also a great resource. So in summary, animals feel fear and pain. If it's wrong to eat a dog, it's wrong to eat a cow or a calf. Heart disease is our #1 killer, and cancer is our #2 killer. There are several research studies showing that eating a whole food plant-based diet, you can ameliorate your risk for several diseases. The grains used for livestock could feed the billion people in the world who are starving, and meat is worse for global warming than all the cars, trains, trucks combined. And cow's milk was created for her calf. It's not for us. Let's watch this. Actually, I'm going to skip this since we're running out of time. I was going to look at this video, which really shows how animals are sentient beings. So these are the various references, and I'll be happy to email you. I put my email in the chat. I'll be happy to email you these references or any other information you like. In the end, please give compassion a chance. Please go vegan for the animals, our water, world hunger, rainforest, compassion, wildlife, our health, peace, and our planet. I'll be happy to answer some questions.
Jody, thank you. We have a question from an iPhone caller. If you can unmute the iPhone person, they can ask their question.
Okay, hang on.
Can you do that on your side, Jody?
Try to find. Yep, I see that. Okay, iPhone, can you please unmute yourself?
Can you hear me?
Yep, go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Jyoti, for a great talk. This is Brett Sassine. What physical changes have you noticed in yourself since you've become vegan?
So very good question. What physical changes have I noticed in myself?
Or emotional changes?
Oh, great. Okay, very good. So I used to be having what's called perennial rhinitis, and used to be on a lot of steroids and ton of allergy medications I used to eat. And after I gave up dairy, they practically disappeared. I mean, I still have, when the season changes, I still get some allergies, but I'm not on any steroid medication for my asthma or for my allergies. And if you look at it, the reason is because milk is very phlegmatic. It causes a lot of phlegm in your lungs. And if you take the root cause away, then you obviously have the disappearance of all the symptoms. So what I was doing initially was treating the symptom, but not addressing the core of the problem. Another benefit is, and I know it's too much information or TMI, you become regular because, again, fiber. When I substituted milk, which has zero fiber, to plant-based milk like rice milk or pea milk, which is PEA, pea milk, green peas milk, you get a ton of fiber. So you get regular, it cleans out your system. So even that problem disappears. Another thing which I noticed cleared up is my acne. I used to have severe acne, and that disappeared. So, and by the very fact that I grew up with my chore of going into the morning and supporting that cruelty, you know, bringing milk to the house, and that was my chore, and I got paid for it, for doing my chore. Just the very fact that Gau Mata, the mom, I'm not part of that process of supporting the abuse to my mom. It made me feel a lot better. And you know, it also is very cheap. You go to an Indian store, for $10, you can get a 10 pound of rice. And that would probably last you several months for that milk. And you don't have to buy milk ever. You know, it's so much cheaper. My friend Ellen Jaffe Jones has written a really good book, How to Go Vegan on Less Than $4 a Day. Highly recommend that book. I have, my grocery bill is like almost a third of when I used to be an omnivore than that. So my allergy asthma has disappeared practically. I'm more regular and my skin has cleared up. I feel a lot better and I'm saving a lot of money on by being plant-based. Does it answer your question? I hope it did answer your question.
Any other questions for Jody? I see a hand raised. Elizabeth on the iPhone. Jody, can you unmute Elizabeth's iPhone?
I think I'm
Hey, Doctor.
unmuted. Jody, you mentioned some of the issues about forced pregnancy and so on with dairy animals and other animals. One of the things I've heard people say is that dairy is a feminist issue. I wonder if you could comment on that.
So Dr. Diku, she is my teacher, my role model, and thank you, Dr. Diku, for joining. And the question which Dr. Diku is asking is about the feminism role and dairy. So going back to the fact that my morning for most part of my childhood grew up watching these cows on a rope. They can't move and they are in feces, and they have what is called a stuffed calf. So it's not a live calf, it's a stuffed calf with hay, in which they are just licking it repeatedly, and a guy behind has tied the legs of the mom, and then he's milking the cow, if you can imagine that. So feminism is Gaia is speaking up for women's right. And just like Justice RBG says, that we always have to stand up for women's rights. We always have to stand up for rights. And feminism means you stand up for women's rights. And it doesn't matter whether it is my mom or a female cow who is being violated. I never thought that the cow has to be impregnated, forcefully impregnated. And I'm not going to use the R word here because I don't want to trigger anybody, but they're forcefully impregnated, and then they have a pregnancy, and then they have a baby. Just like when my mom was pregnant with me and she gave me birth, she started lactating. So that's the same physical nature of the mom is lactating to produce milk for the baby calf. And we take the calf away, we steal it, and the cow is grieving for that baby. She grieves for a long time. And what they do is that if it is a male calf, then it goes to slaughter, and they stuff the baby with hay so that the cow thinks that the baby is still there, and she's licking the hay baby and producing milk. And also she's pumped with oxytocin. So you can see that the cycle is repeated like 4 times. The cow at least have 4 pregnancies, and once she's spent, then the cow goes to slaughterhouse. So it's a violation of the feminist right to self-determination. And if it was to happen to my mom, it would be very upsetting. And we just ignore that violation of the female cow, and it behooves us from a karmic perspective, from a spiritual perspective, to respect women's right to choose, to respect the women's boundaries, and to honor the women's right. And that's what I think is a crux for what Justice RBG stood for. And thus, that's what we as a society needs to take a stand for, that female's body needs to be respected. Did I answer your question, Dr. Diku?
Bill?
Yes. Thank you very much.
Thanks for asking that question.
I just saw Cowspiracy last night, the first time, and it just blew me away. I couldn't believe all of that, but I'm got to make my transition now to veganism, and it'll be a transition because I can't do it all at once, but I'm going to do it as I go along. But you give me a lot of good resources here, and I'm going to be looking this stuff up and what to do. So I thank you for that, and it fits in. Thank you.
Your words were very moving.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Ilan.
Oh, let me see if I got this right.
I can hear you.
Oh, great. So yes, I moved up here to Vermont, which is very dairy country, and just along the lines of the what is most distressing to me about the rights of the mother cows is that when they immediately take the calf away from the mom, and they put them in these separate pens. If they're going to keep the cows alive, they keep the little calves in separate pens. And as I drive past the dairy farms, I see the separate pens that are away from the barns where the moms are. And it's distressing to me, I remember the whole Fairlife fiasco, and when they said, oh, we have these separate pens for the calves so that they feel safe, but they would feel safe with their moms, not kept in these, you know, these newborns kept in pens away from their mothers. So it was just very, that's one of the most distressing things about dairy. Thank you, Jody, and also thank you for your sense of humor and compassion. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Ilan. And Ilan is one of my yoga teacher friends. And namaste for joining all the way from Vermont. And I know dairy is very important in a lot of farming communities. And a lot of people, Ilan, you bring up a very good point about separation of mom and the calf. But a lot of people ask me, okay, what about this dairy industry workers? How are they going to survive? Because as you know, the government is giving them bailout money. So here is the question of retooling. Like, we know we cannot meet physically, so we have retooled to meet through Zoom. A lot of dairy farmers are being retooled to either get into mushroom farming or just farming crops. And there are groups which are helping these animal slaughter farmers to convert their places into producing food, plant food which we can use. And the advantage of switching from dairy to plant-based are just like huge. India, which is, as I mentioned, is addicted to dairy, which goes without saying. Everything has dairy in it. But India is also now the diabetic capital of the world. It's also the heart disease capital of the world. We're going to run out of places for dialysis because, you know, diabetes is equivalent of heart disease. Diabetes leads to a lot of kidney trouble. I saw my dad suffer from diabetes for almost 8 years. I diagnosed my dad with diabetes, and I told him that, Dad, today is the day you should consider that you've also had a heart attack, because diabetes is an myocardial infarction equivalent, which means the day you know that you have diabetes, you also have heart disease. And he and I struggle for taking dairy away from his diet because he's a vegetarian, but it didn't work out, and he eventually had kidney problems. He eventually lost his eyesight, and his skin from the toes up became black because it causes circulation problems. Diabetes is such a horrible disease. And by switching to a plant-based diet, as Dr. Neil Bernard from PCRM mentions in his book, Reversing Diabetes, you can reverse diabetes. If you type 2 diabetes we're talking about, not the type 1, but look at Dr. Neil Bernard's book on reversing diabetes, and you can reverse diabetes by going a whole food plant-based lifestyle. Thank you, Ilan, for your comments, and thanks for joining all the way from Vermont. Do we have any other questions? I think.
Any other questions? Jody, that was a very thought-provoking and well-researched talk. And all the resources that you've assembled, we can send those out, make your PowerPoint and other things available as well, because I know many of our members would be interested. Last call, any other questions, comments?
Yeah, we've got one here.
I was just
go ahead.
Ask you how long you had been a vegan.
That's a very good question. So I was raised vegetarian, but when I came to US, you know, all the peer pressure and all the parties I went to, I became an omnivore. And then I actually, Dr. Deku organized a talk by Joaquin. Actually, it's a movie called Earthlings. She organized this documentary. I think her law school and under her leadership, I saw that documentary Earthlings, which is very similar to Joaquin Phoenix documentary Dominion. And I watched Earthlings, and that just really woke me up. And I went back into vegetarian, and I think shortly after that, I became a vegan. So I've been vegan for almost 10 and a half years, going close to 1st of January, it will be 11 years. And I have lowered down my cholesterol, almost 40% I have lowered down my cholesterol. And, you know, cholesterol runs high in my family. My mom died from heart disease and my dad from diabetes. And and it's like night and day. I feel that the only regret about veganism, and many people have mentioned that the only regret is I should have done it sooner. And it's a problem because you see so much ads on TV and media about got milk, or you need to drink dairy, or turkeys, or because there's a huge lobby. There is a meat lobby, there's a dairy lobby, but I can guarantee you there is no broccoli lobby, and by golly, we need that. And the reason why we need that, we need that is because broccoli is full of fiber, full of nutrients, it's a superfood. So is kale, so are plants, and plants have power. And we need to have this information to our people, because that's the only way we are going to get our energy back. That's the only way we're going to get our health back, our environment back, and our life back. So thank you.
I have a question. Is it okay to go ahead?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Jyoti, do you think that it's any easier to eat vegan today than when you first went vegan 10 or so years ago?
Oh, such a great question. So if you see at the various plant-based meat analogs options, just the dairy industry, I'm trying to go to that slide, you can see, look at this. This is all, most of it, actually all of it is plant-based. So now you have an explosion, a plethora of plant-based meat analogs or plant-based dairy analogs. It's much more easier now to go plant-based than it was 10 years back. And I know a lot of times, and in fact, I have tried it. Some of the vegan food didn't taste as well. And I live with my roommate who could not try anything because the whole complaint is, oh, vegan food tastes like cardboard. And it's because when they tried it several years back, there wasn't Impossible Burger, there wasn't a Beyond Burger. And nowadays, I just a couple of weeks back, some of the friends had come over and I've made Impossible Burger for them, and it tasted scarily like meat. And I felt guilty eating that. I was like, what am I eating right now? I should not be eating that. I'm going to lose my veganity or my vegan edge. No vegan food, no vegan powers. So, but it was vegan food, and it was scarily taste like real meat. And in fact, Ripple, which is a pea milk, and Oatly, they traced as creamy as real milk. And we have vegan egg now, Just Egg, which you can make scrambled eggs. So it's you have Earth Save, I think, has got the vegan butter, which tastes just like real butter. And you have vegan bacon, you have vegan hot dogs, and they taste really good. In fact, cheese, Kite Hill, and Wildlife and Follow Your Heart are 3 brands which I really like. They cheese tastes like real cheese. And I used to be addicted to cheese because the compound in cheese is casomorphin. And what does that remind you of? Morphine. It's the morphine effect, which is biologically designed to get the baby calf be addicted to the mom, to keep coming back to the mom for that morphine effect. And I was addicted to cheese, but now, it's going plant-based. The products taste just like the real thing. So thanks, Dr. Elizabeth, for the question. And it is much easier now to go plant-based than. So being vegan. So vegan has a connotation of standing up for the animals. You talked about feminism. We talked about the climate change. We talked about the social justice issues. So veganism takes the stance. Veganism is an ethical stance. Whole food plant-based is for the health benefits. You get the most benefit. But if you want to stand up for justice, if you want to stand up for the climate change, we want to stand up for the animals, veganism is this ethical stance.
So Jyoti, I have a question.
Go ahead.
What did you eat today? Or give me an example of a breakfast and lunch and dinner that you would eat.
Very, very good question. So I usually start my day with fruits. And when I tell my family that I start my day with fruits and not samosa and chai and some bhujia, they just say, you have totally Americanized. So, and it is true. I used to start my day with milk in my tea and some biscuits and bhujia and kachoris and jalebis, which is making me hungry now thinking about it. But this morning I had a pineapple, oats, berries. So, I would always mix and match with the different kinds of food. And also I add chia seeds in my breakfast in the morning and just add some cinnamon or some um, cloves, ground cloves to get some antioxidants. And lunch, I had some purple cabbage mixed with chickpeas, onions. I just add a lot of vegetables. I had sweet potatoes, and I just add so much spices. It's unbelievable how many spices. If I show you my spice rack, it looks like the whole store. So and I experiment with a lot of spices. And I do like paprika. I do like pepper. So I have like almost 10 spices which I add. Oregano, fenugreek. I love fenugreek spices, and turmeric, black pepper, of course, parsley, and usually for dinner I will either have a plant-based burger with some. I have oat milk or Ripple milk, and with I love this bread. It's called the Dave's Killer bread. It's a vegan bread. They're really nutty, and I'll either add some raisins or nuts or some cashews at night sparingly. So, and also I can, if I am hungry in between, I will just have either I have so many nuts it drives me nuts. I snack on nuts and seeds. Sunflower seeds is also really good for snacking. So,
You
Can
didn't
you say
really
more
mention
about what?
fish.
oh, so fish is
Yeah.
actually very important. Fish is animals. Fish are sentient beings. In fact,
Yeah.
salmon can trace their way back to their place where they are spawned. So they have such a geo
No
sense.
fish.
Yeah, no fish. Instead of fish, you can get. I added chia seeds in the morning, my breakfast. But you can also add flax. Flax. You can just, if you have ground flax, you can just mix it in your smoothies, or walnuts. In fact, I snack on walnut almost all day, and also spinach is a really good source for your omega-3s, or you can get a algae-based omega supplement. No, fish, there is so many animals and mammals in the ocean which desperately need fish. We have dead zones in several areas of the ocean, so they don't have any living life. And fish are essential part of the marine ecosystem. They clean out our ocean. Did that answer your question?
Yes. Thank you.
It was a delicious question.
Jody, could you say more about what you mean by whole food?
Okay, so you look at this in the screen.
Mm-hmm.
This is processed. Instead of eating buying oat milk from um, the store, or any of all these burgers are processed. So the more you want to process it and make it taste like the animal products, the more they're going to add some stuff, and they, of course, they're going to lose nutrition. So like I use rolled oats, and you can also use steel cut oats. Much more nutrition you're going to get from eating the food as close to the ground as possible. Peas are much better than pea milk. Eating coconut is much better than coconut oil. In fact, oils use it sparingly for the same reason that they are saturated, they're concentrated. Salt, oil, and sugar, you need to watch out for them. And so processed food is like, look at on the right hand side, candies, soda, pastries, white beans, white rice, white flour pasta. All of this is processed. You need to go to whole food like brown rice, whole oats, and just try to get food which is more in its natural state. And the fresher, the better. And the reason is because you're getting more nutrition. If you go by farmer's market, your carbon footprint is lesser. The more it doesn't come into a package, you can just get an apple or peppers or tomatoes or potatoes from the farmer's market. The more it is less packaged, the lesser carbon footprint you're having and the more nutrition you're going to get. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you. Other questions? Okay. Well, Jody, again, thank you very much. We've been looking forward to this topic. You were scheduled in March. Of course, we know what happened around then. Our meeting schedule was a little disrupted. And I'm glad we finally had you tonight, and keep up the good work.
Yes, thank you.
Namaste.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
If we can leave the meeting open a while, if anybody has anything to chat about with anybody or sign off, we'll leave it open for a few minutes.
I have a comment. Unfortunately, I can't remember the name of the book, but it was written by an ultra marathoner. And this is not 26 miles. These people run like 100 miles at a stretch. And he believed in a plant-based diet. And one major point of his book was that you can get enough protein to support all that physical exercise on a plant-based diet, but it's hard. You've got to use all this variety, but if you eat a lot and you eat like the rainbow, you can actually get enough protein in a plant-based diet to really do incredible amount of exercise. And I thought that was really fascinating.
So I'm not sure if you can still see my screen. The No Meat Athlete is a great resource, and also Rich Roll, he has a podcast.
Oh.
Rich Roll.
Yeah, I can't remember who wrote that, but he was very serious about both his running and both his plant-based lifestyle, and he manages to put them together.
Yeah, Rich Roll is an ultra marathoner. He's amazing and athlete, and he has a really good podcast. So No Meat Athlete and Rich Roll, they are two great resources. In fact, when I was training for my marathon, I used some of his resources.
Well, good for you.
Now I just take the bus.
When did you do that?
It's been several years. 3 half and 1 full marathon.
Did you like it? Was it fun?
I wouldn't go that far.
Yeah. I hear you, Jody. As a former runner, I don't miss it.
Now I only run if I'm running towards vegan food or if somebody's chasing me.
Okay, well, that was really a really well done, well-rounded, interesting talk. And thanks again.
Namaste. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Jody.
Bye. Namaste.
Okay, bye.